Roman power collapsed in the British Isles during the early 5th century. During those waning years, the once lucrative and now hereditary position of tax collector became increasingly burdensome upon those who held it. The empire continued to demand taxes that couldn't actually be levied, often taking the deficit out of the personal fortune of the tax collectors and their families. As more tax collectors began to flee rather than carry out their imperial duties, the empire imposed a punishment of execution against all tax collectors who abandoned their post. A certain Patricius was born in the late 4th century to one such family of hereditary tax collectors. By the date of his 16th year in the turn of the century, he was expected to take up the post of tax collector and extort or bully his neighbors into supplying the Roman treasury, or to make up the difference out of his own pocket. The specific details of Patricius's early life are unclear, but by this time Roman power in Britain was collapsing rapidly, and the tax base was incapable of sustaining the demands levied against it. Whether Patricius's family had already lost everything, or he was simply unwilling to extort his neighbors as required of him, Patricius fled his post on pain of death for Ireland. Patricius would later claim that he had been kidnapped by pirates, but this was almost certainly a piece of misinformation to keep the Romans from executing him upon his discovery. However he got to Ireland, shortly after arriving, Patricius was bound in servitude. For the next 6 years, Patricius, called Padric or Patrick in the Celtic tongues, served as a slave in Ireland. It was during this captivity that Patrick was first exposed to Christianity, later describing this period of bondage as critical to his spiritual development. Patrick found that the Lord was merciful to him for his youthful ignorance and lack of belief up to that point in his life, and that his captivity presented Patrick with an opportunity for conversion and forgiveness. Patrick spent some of his captivity working as a shepherd, either in County Antrim or in County Mayo, during which he prayed fervently. After 6 years, Patrick heard a voice telling him that his ship was ready and that it was time to leave. Patrick fled his captivity, walking for 200 miles through lands he had never been, on a route he did not plan, until he arrived at a port city the same day that a ship was set to sail to Britain. He convinced the ship to take him, but the ship made land, or crashed, in some uninhabited wilderness, where Patrick and the crew with whom he traveled wandered for 28 days. Patrick urged his non-Christian acquaintances to put their faith in God, and shortly after they encountered a herd of wild boar. The party was saved from hunger, and Patrick returned to his family home. Once home, Patrick began to study Christianity with greatly increased resources. He traveled to mainland Europe, where he was tonsured and ordained as a priest. After a number of years, Patrick had a vision of Saint Victricius, the former bishop of Rouen, in which the saint gave Patrick a letter, headed with the words, "The Voice of the Irish." The letter beseeched Patrick to return to Ireland to Christianize the pagan island. Various legends about Patrick take several forms, such as using a shamrock to explain the Trinity, banishing snakes from Ireland, fasting on the mountaintop of Cruachan Egil, and meeting the ghosts of ancient Celtic warriors to debate the merits of Christianity. While the specifics of his activities in Ireland are largely unknown, the results are apparent. St. Patrick became the patron saint of Ireland and the personal symbol of one of the most strongly Catholic states in European history. St. Patrick indeed became the voice of the Irish. Today he is known as the Apostle of Ireland. St. Patrick teaches us of the greatness that can be achieved when one follows the path God puts before them. St. Patrick, pray for us.